Hello, welcome to Bil, and this is a follow-up to my video on Bernardo Kastrup does not understand economics. And welcome back to Jurgen 586. Um, you have been roaming a bit around my videos in the recent times, and fine, I am open for any kind of comment, but expect me to also take it seriously and comment if I want comment back or reflect on it if I feel so inclined, right? Okay, so you wrote a little story about your understandings of economics, and then I had two questions. One, did you go to university? Two, have you ever run your own business? And you're supposedly honestly answering yes and no, which is yes, you did go to university, and no, you have not run your own business. And then I asked sort of a little, maybe a little dismissing or passive aggressive even, right? Maybe is not the best way to you know communicate, I suppose, as an afterthought. But I say as I expected, right? As I expected. Yes, your comment was, or your background is you gone to university, yes, but you have not ever run your own business. And what I'm trying to say is that is possibly a foundational reason for how you understand how things work, right? And I'm not trying to sort of pinpoint you as sort of kind of a devil, because you are just a spokesperson in this sense for hordes of people. And it could be myself included, like 15, 20 years ago. I didn't know shit about anything. I didn't try to understand how things work, right? Try to get second or third or fourth opinion about how things work. All I had been influenced by was my nearest colleagues or whatever, who had the same kind of weird understandings of how things work, right? And politicians always trying to strike fear into people, right? These people out to get you, something like that, right? Therefore, you should pay your taxes and let me help you, right? So living in this sort of echo chamber of mainstream, indoctrination is not particularly healthy for understanding how things work. Because if it was like, at the end of the day, if it was like you're just having an opinion and it doesn't really influence whether or not people are, forced to do this and that by appealing to a government who has somehow gotten a monopoly on threatening people with violence in order to make them conform to their rules, right? If that wasn't a part of the everyday, I was more like, yeah, you can have your opinion. But these kinds of opinions, they always imply, at the end of the day, some kind of threat of violence in order to conform to something, right? And there are particular kinds of fallacies or appeals to, I'll get back to it, right? Possibly, if I remember, right? That sort of contradicts the actual appeal that is going for, right? Maybe I'm a little cryptic about it, but let me head into Jørgen's comment here, right? Jørgen said, let's imagine we can hit a reset button and start over with a completely free market. Okay, so you're implying that it's not completely free now. Now, what does it mean that something isn't free? Now, a market doesn't exist. Market doesn't have a color, a sound, a taste, and so on. That's why it's a good idea to have a foundational metaphysics and the ground floor, right? Because it's a tool to figure out whether or not whatever is being referenced actually exists, right? And I might get into this more clearly at some point, right? But a way to do that is saying, well, does it have a color, a sound, a taste, which is my reduction base, right? And if it doesn't, it cannot be existence. So when you're saying a free market, it is, and I use that term also, it's actually more like, are people free to do what they want? Right? are you going to accept or align yourself with not interfering what other people do who have not accepted you being a part of that interaction? Are you going to go to some other third party or fourth party of people and say, hey, you're doing this, I don't like it, you have to do it differently, and if you don't want to do that, I'm going to do something to make sure you do it the way. Is that what you're appealing to? Because what else could it be, right? There's not some market over there that you can go and say, I'm moving the market a little to the left, or a little to the right, or moving it up, or making it a different color, or whatever, right? You have to be clear of what you're saying when you're appealing to a particular interactions. Because if you're just sitting in your thinking chamber, doesn't really matter, right? Unless you go out and do something. And when you go out and do that something, first of all, you actually need a moral principle before you do anything. Because if you do not have a moral principle, it's almost bang on certain that you're going to violate some kind of morality or ethics or moral principle if you're just going to boss people around. And another thing is you might be, implicitly violating Hume's result gap, but just ordering people around because of your whatever gut feeling you have, right? So there are all sorts of shit built into this comment you have made here, right? And I sort of appreciate that you're sort of, I have something to base my talking on here, my talking points, right? Completely free market to buy, sell carrots and cucumbers. That's a reference to some examples I gave, right? Okay, so you're saying that people aren't free, completely free. So what can you explain to me what that not completely free thing is? What is it, and how does it manifest, and how do you understand it, right? Because if you're not free, you must be forced. There must be somebody threatening you somehow if you're not free. Otherwise you would be free, right? So you are saying somebody is some part of some particular aspects of human interaction that you call market are being threatened on their life in order to conform with some kind of rule or something like that, right? Now it's hidden in the language. It's not completely free. It sounds sort of kind of innocent, right? But when you really dig into it, it's an appeal to violence. It's an appeal to death and murder for not complying with somebody's weird arbitrary rules, right? So if I have some cucumbers and you have some carrots, and I say, I have this cucumber, can I get 3 carrots? And you say, fine, I'll give you 3 carrots for that cucumber, and we swap. And then some third party will come and say, that interaction cannot be completely free. What is that third party doing? Tell me, what are they doing? And what the hell are they, who do they think they are? If I make a transaction with another person, why is this third party all of a sudden popping out of nowhere telling me what to do? Or the other part of the transaction I'm voluntarily interacting in. Now, there's also this buy-sell. Buy-sell is a sort of a kind of appeal to a false dichotomy, possibly, right? If you are having cucumbers, or I'm having cucumbers, and you are having 3 carrots, and we swap, who's a buyer and who's a seller, right? Are you the seller because you have carrots, or am I the seller because I have cucumbers? We're just swapping. There's no buyer and seller as such, right? We're just swapping. What is buy and sell? Why do you call it buy and sell carrots and cucumbers? To begin with, all individuals are producers, workers, and buyers. Why? Is that sort of a part of your metaphysics that, yeah, when you have this color, you are a producer. When you make this sound, you're a buyer. Why these labels? All individuals are you saying that all individuals are every kind of concept you can attach to somebody participating in a potential market, right? I mean, all these preconceived categories, it's just propaganda. It's just indoctrination, right? There's one individual here who has an object. There's another individual here who has another object. They look on each other's object and say, I would like that object. Would you want my object instead? Is it a producer? Is it a worker? Is it a buyer? I don't care what you call it, right? So you have to be lumped into these sort of presupposed categories of people who are either buyers or workers or producers and so on, in order to create a cleft between people. Hey, you can't do anything. You entered up in this category of buyers, so now you have to be protected against sellers or producers, or right? It's all propaganda, man, right? And then you say, but as soon as the market becomes more complicated. Okay, so this is an appeal to a slippery slope of some kind, right? It's a matter of degree. Yeah. If you just swap cucumbers and carrots, it's okay. But when it gets complicated, something bad happens, right? Or are you just saying, as soon as it gets more complicated than I can handle in my head, then I'm being struck by fear of people doing something I don't want? Or is it just that when market gets complicated, which is there's all sorts of interactions going on that you have no access to, you have no control over, you don't know what is going on, this trading over there and over here, and they're probably corrupt and doing shit and polluting and whatever, right? So it has to be controlled. Don't have the overview of everything. We need to have an overview. People are bad, right? They do bad things, and you're conspiring this and that and the other, right? That's what I'm hearing. Becomes more complicated. A division between ownership of the means of production and wage workers emerges. Oh my God, man. Now this is just, okay, man, come on. This one, the means of production, right? This is sort of a communist talking point, right? Everybody understands this. This is why I'm saying you're grown up in an academic world because you don't want to be a part of the, manual labor market, right? You want to roll back to the ivory tower and sit there and judge people saying you should be controlled because whatever, right? Rather than participating in something that actually creates value to people, right? So now I'm not saying you necessarily don't make value. If those who pay your whatever wage you're a seller of your philosophy or whatever in your ivory tower or whatever you're doing, then you're sort of then it's a free market, because if they voluntarily pay for your services, they're not forced to do it through, for instance, taxes, right? Then fine, then you're part of the free market. But if you're from Sweden, which I suppose that you are, you're probably Swedish, right? Hazarding a guess here. That's one of the hardcore socialist entities in the world, right? Just like the Danish one, right? Maybe Sweden is even more, in some regards, more communist socialist than Denmark is. But then if you're somehow in academia, you're being paid by taxpayers, right? They're being forced to pay for your labor, right? So you don't want a free market, of course not, because then nobody will probably pay for your wages, right? So you have to go out and be a part of that market. So you don't want it to be free. You want it to be taxed. And all these academics, they want the market to be taxed so they can sit there in the ivory tower and tell them they should be taxed, right? A division between ownership of the means of production. But you are a mean of production. You are a mean of production. Only human beings are means of production. No matter how complicated a machine is, if a human being doesn't use its means of production, it doesn't work, right? And if somebody has created a machine, it didn't fall out of the sky, right? It was produced by somebody else using their means for production, right? And then sort of the wage workers. Oh yeah, you sound like somebody hiding in the ivory tower, right? The wage workers, yeah. And there have just been, you are a wage worker and you can't get out of it, right? And you shouldn't try to get out of it because we can't, rally you against the free market and put all sorts of resentment into you because you can't get out of your situation, right? Well, if anybody inflicting themselves on the market is inhibiting people's ability to get out of whatever group they have, ended up in at a particular point in time, it's the government. Taxing you is making sure that you stay where you are, right? How many people, and then they're forcing children into 10 years and even more years of indoctrination that in no way helps them understand how the market works or makes them able to participate in that market, right? And they create resentment and fear in these young people who don't understand what the hell is going on out there, right? And they're afraid of all the the climate change and the pollution and all these the crazy psychopathic bosses and the controllers of the means of production and who wants the dump the wages on the poor people, and it's like, oh my fucking god, man, right? It's all manipulation. And the because of the manipulation and control and regulation, quote, of the market has become more like the problem they're trying to solve by telling people there's a problem in the market. So it's the self-fulfilling prophecy of interfering with the market. It's like, there's something wrong with the bicycle, you could fall off the bicycle, and then the government comes and put sticks into the wheels of the bicycle, and people fall over, and the government is saying, look, people are falling over. Yeah, you're sticking sticks into the wheels, man, right? That's the same thing you can't tax your way to freedom or riches, right? It's stupid. By taxing labor, you are inhibiting labor, right? By taxing business, you are inhibiting business, right? That's why they're taxing on plastic bags. It's order to avoid people buying plastic bags. Well, if you tax labor, you are inhibiting labor. If you're taxing companies, you're inhibiting companies, and so on. Right? It should be obvious. I get carried away by this ignorance, man, right? Means of and wage workers emerge, which in turn creates new conflicts of interest and hierarchies and power and wealth. Okay, so if you take the Danish government, for instance, which is small compared to other governments, right? In the sort of economic sense, every politician, on average, controls more than 5 billion Danish kroners, which is something like, let's just round it up and say, $1 billion, right? Every politician is in control of moving about $1 billion. And you're talking about hierarchies and power and wealth. Why, if you are participating with your capital in a market, right, you are interested in making sure that that capital works for you, that you're not squandering the money, right? If you have $1 billion, you're not just going to hand it out to everybody. That's a very bad business, right? So you're trying to invest in something that has creating new value and even more value that you had already, by putting together workers or resources to create something that is more value than the sum of the parts, right? That's the whole idea of creating a business. That you take a worker and carrots and a field and at the end of the day a packet of carrots arrive in the store that in total can be sold or exchanged for more than it could be before it was turned into that particular resource or good at the end of the business, right? But what government does is saying, I am taxing your business or your working or your work in order to reduce the efficiency of the free market, and then taking the money or shoving it in somebody else's face that then don't have to work because now they're getting free money instead, right? While the politicians then take 20-30% of it, right? Very, very stupid idea, right? Unless, of course, you're sitting over on the other side receiving some shit, like academics and, whoever wants to siphon off money from the market, right? Which in turn creates new conflicts of interest. Oh, yeah, everything will turn into shit. If there are nobody to threaten people with guns to do it the right way, they will fuck everything up, right? That's the point. That's the contradiction I want to get to. If a free market where people have a self-interest in not destroying the customers and customers not wanting to destroy the businesses who supply whatever they want, and you want to keep your capital functioning and not lose capital, otherwise you will also go out of business, which is a sign that you're not being productive, which is, of course, it's all in balance. It's the Adam Smith's, invisible hand. It's a metaphor, okay? It's a metaphor. But no, you want somebody who's not participating in the market to take away money from a very fine-tuned balance in a free market and destroy it and inhibit businesses and creating unemployment in order to control that which is supposedly not working, right? So government is making things worse and using that excuse to tax even more to make it even worse. And then all sorts of shit starts happening, and individuals begin to organizing themselves into groups to serve their interests. Oh, so I want to get back to the point. Okay, if people on this market who have incentive to behave very reasonable and not steal from each other or inflict themselves and destroy other people's, destroy the customers or destroy business because their interdependency, you're saying that they are still evil somehow, right? But you can find some people who can be these regulators, this central command of authority who can tell people to go left and right and produce carrots in this way and that way. These angels are going to save everybody, while you're still saying human beings, they're egotistical and they're going to be wealth and power and they're going to be, right? It's a self-contradiction. You can't have it both ways. You can't have these people who are, and it's usually politicians who are usually psychopaths or narcissists or crazy people or, just taking advantage of a power structure where they can go around threatening people with violence in order to get the things their way, right? It's an easy business if you can threaten people to pay for your life rather than you have to produce something of value that people can say no thank you to. It's easier to have guns and go and threaten people and say you have to pay me taxes and survive that way. That's a more efficient kind of business because you always have money because people are going to die or you're going to shoot them if they don't pay you. And then you say, but how do we deal with this? Who, right? Is it all the Philosopher Kings in the ivory towers who are siphoning money from this market that they hate so much? Or is it, who is it, right? There is no we. There's only you and me and that dude over there, right? There is no we. And there's no we that has to deal with anything. You just shut the fuck up and leave people alone, right? And let them have their interactions as they see fit. You can just say, no, thank you, I don't want to participate. could also say, well, there are all these parasitical academics. How do we deal with them, right? Would you like that to happen? No, 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 no. They are perfect beings. They're the elite human beings. We don't have to look at them. We have to look at the market, right? We have to look at the market, not the academics. That's the big club. No, you're outside of that. They have to look at what the little people are doing, right? With a free market, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Oh man, you have been so fucking indoctrinated, right? If there's something that is with an eye for an eye, okay. If I promised you to give you a cucumber and you promised to give me 3 carrots, it's an eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth, or an eye for a tooth, or tooth for an eye, right? It's 3 tooth for 1 eye. It's a 3 cucumber or 1 cucumber for 3 carrots, right? And if you have agreed to that deal, I will hold you to that deal, right? So what do you want to get away with? You want an eye, but you don't want to pay a tooth, right? You want to steal? Is that it? Or some kind of agreed upon regulation that impinge. Oh, impinge. That sounds like Bernardo Kastrup. That sounds like Bernardo Kastrup to me, right? On the market freedom. Yes, we have to regulate the freedom. We cannot freedom. Freedom is dangerous. Control is freedom, right? You're not free if you're free, right? No, what people want is their own freedom, but everybody else being controlled, right? Because I am virtuous. I am perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. No, it's all those out there who has to be controlled so I can save my freedom, right? I can't give other people freedom because they might not want to deal with me, right? What if I can't make this cucumber? I'm not getting any carrots. So I'm afraid there needs to be regulations. There needs to be somebody who steals cucumbers and carrots from all this bad market and give it to me. So I'm sure I get my carrots and my cucumbers, right? There has never been and never will be an entirely free market or a workers' paradise. I don't know what the hell this is, right? Oh, it's never been, so we should never try, right? That's the argument. Yeah. What if we tried? We will just get all the shit we have now, so it doesn't matter. We shouldn't try, right? No, I would like to try a completely free market and see what happens, right? Because everything that I see as the more free a market is, the better and richer it gets. And the more poor people from other, subdued markets it attracts. And all sorts of poor people flock to this free market where they hope to get a leg up somewhere in the market. That's why people flock to America more than 100 years ago, right? Or people going to Hong Kong, or now they're going to Eastern Europe, even from Western Europe, because Western Europe is more communist now than the Eastern Europe were 30 years ago, man, right? You won't see anybody from Hong Kong, old school Hong Kong, right, moving to Sweden in order to start a company, unless they have a global company anyway, where they have to have a particular, office in Sweden maybe. But you won't say, I'll go to Sweden to start a company. No, because you're going to be taxed to death, right? You cannot possibly start it unless you're fucking lucky. Start a new business in any of these Nordic, welfare state taxation inflicted countries, right? It's almost like you're stupid. You're treated as some kind of weirdo if you're trying to start your own company. I have felt the same way. I tried to start a company 8-9 years ago. People look at me, so you start your own company? What did you do? It's like, it should be, wow, you tried against all odds to do what is almost impossible. However, some form of system that leans in one direction or the other will always arise in order to usurp or distribute power and wealth. Oh, so yeah, but it's we can't have freedom. No, freedom is bad. Not, I don't think it's because people don't like people having free interaction, but it's more like this. But I don't think I have anything to supply to the market, so I will end up being one of the poorest ones. No, we need to have academia so I can hide in there instead and have a very nice and cozy life and get a decent wage from taxing this. And the excuse for taxation is it needs to be regulated, otherwise power and wealth and ooh, right? Bullshit. I start to look like an Italian here, right? Oh man, I mean, you are so fucking indoctrinated, man. Get your head on straight, right? You would have more respect for the idea of a free market if you had actually participated in the free market, right? Let's just scratch what we have done so far, right? If everybody was self-sufficient, there wouldn't need to be a market, right? There wouldn't be producers, workers, and buyers. Everybody would just fetch what they need to survive and they will sleep in the woods or whatever, right? Don't need to have an economy. We don't need to have a market, right? But there's a sexual dynamic between men and women, right? Women wants the most masculine, dominant man, because the dominant man is the one who's going to defend her, possibly, right? The weak man is not going to defend her or go out and get, the mammoth or whatever in order to feed the children and so on, right? So women will give their sex to the most dominant men, which is sort of 10-20% of men, right? Okay, how can other men get to be the one getting some of the women, right? By producing something, getting rich, whatever, right? In order to appeal to women? Would it be better that we sort of fight over it and hit each other and shoot each other? Or that we, in a free association, create a market where you can get far without shooting people, but you can do it with mutual interactions in order to appeal to women? Which is the best one? Should we have warlords or should we have a free market, right? It's ultimately the way it's going. Either you have warlords who control everything, or you have a free market where you can move about, right? I know we have fascism now, where there are some people who are taxing the market, but not so much that they're destroying the market. They're just siphoning off like a parasite, while the market, so slowly that the market can still adjust and keep going slowly but steadily, worse and worse and worse, right? Some point it's going to crash anyway. But that's temporary. It's like, okay, as long as I can create a system where I can siphon up stuff from the market while I'm alive, then I don't care what happens, right? That's sort of very egotistical about it, right? That's very narcissistic and egotistical in a sense that you don't care if the next 2 or 3 generations would have a completely screwed up market where they, whatever, right? So, if you wipe the board clean, right? If each of us is self-sufficient, but one man says, I can get that hot woman over there, right? If I can produce something that the other men don't have, right? Or I can have a bigger house. If I start to produce something that other guy, I can't produce what he has, but I can produce something that he wants, and I can get what he has. So I will get richer and be more appealing to other women, right? Or to appealing to women in general, right? Is that going to happen or is it not going to happen? I think it's going to happen because it's always happened, right? So men will start to produce and produce and produce and interact and so on. And at some point, a politician will come along and say, "Hey, we have to regulate. You have to be taxed, and we have to have an army, and we have to have nuclear weapons, and you have to pay for abortions for my little single mothers and so on." Right? That's when it starts to go wrong, right? When some third party comes in and say, "Hey, you have to give me some of those carrots and those cucumbers." Who the fuck are you, man? Produce something and present it to me, and I might want to trade with you. But don't just steal my shit, you fucking moron. Go away, man, right? But that's what you want. You want some idiot, manipulate, psychopath, whatever, to come and meddle with somebody's free interactions. Why? You want to destroy freedom, right? Freedom. You don't want people to be responsible and take responsibility and take ownership. Because those who can use guns, because you want guns to threaten the market, that will appeal to all these people who want to be parasites rather than participating in the market. Because if you can sit behind the gun and say, "I need some money," right? You will want that gun to be there. So all those who want the gun constantly appeal to the gun being necessary so they can keep taking advantage of the gun being in place to threaten the market to hand over shit, right? And if you have a democracy, you're just saying if there are enough people you can convince of using the gun, then the gun will be in place and it will stay there until the market is fucking dead and you have communism, right? There's, okay, we have to, the World Economic Forum, you will own nothing and you will be happy, right? So the market doesn't work because they have destroyed it, right? And it's like those who are sticking the stick into the wheels of the bicycle says, bicycles don't work, so you have to be in a dictatorship, right? Fuck off, man, right? People apparently hate freedom. Not because of freedom, because they will not have a particular kind of freedom where everybody else is somehow one to some degree or another enslaved to a system that can make sure that they have the freedom they don't deserve. Freedom is not you can do what you want and you can get whatever you want, right? You have to participate. You have to create something of value in order to be a member of that market, so to say, right? Otherwise, you have to fend for yourself. Go do it, man. If you don't want the market, then go be yourself. Don't come with your guns and threaten those who actually want to participate in creating more value for human beings. And threaten them into submission so you can siphon up whatever they're creating while calling them bad. Fuck off, man. I think I got my point across here, right? Thank you for your comment, Göran, and you are the you're the Prügelknabe here, right? You're getting all the beating, but it's so infected with indoctrination. This, right? It's incredible that it's. I mean, I remember that what's he called? Milton Friedman, which is sort of a famous economist, right? Nobel Prize and so on, who said that, why do you think there's so many socialists and communists, right? Because the free market is not an entity. It's just people interacting. There is no central committee of the free market who goes out and praises freedom and free market. But there are a lot of people having, speaking time in order to demonize the market, right? All those who want to be parasites, all the politicians and so on and so on and so on, they're demonizing the market as the worst thing there is, right? It's power and wealth and individualism and selfishness and oh man, right? So there all this anti-market propaganda from those who want to be a parasite on the market, and then just the market. people going about the market, trading with each other. There's nobody standing on boxes and saying, hey, the free market is the greatest thing ever, right? And whenever there's a few people doing that, there's like Milton Friedman or, what's it, the guy, The Road to Serfdom and Bastiat and okay, you can mention there's a book called I, Pencil by, I forget his name. And then there's another famous book called Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. If you read these two books, and I'll link them in my YouTube feed, right? I, Pencil and Economics in One Lesson, that's all you need to understand economics, right? And it's basically saying what economic isn't, or at least the Economics in One Lesson. Economics in One Lesson tells you all that which people think is necessary in order to run the market is actually destroying the market, right? It's based on what is known as the broken window fallacy you might want to read up on, right? And then there's I, Pencil, who describes the intricate system that the free market is. And if you just move a little bit here, left and right, and regulate, you're only going to diminish what has arrived because of self-interest in participating in the market. And you can only participate if you can produce something that is of value. That's why you're part of the market, because you're valuable, man, right? Regulation is not valuable. And I bet you, a guy like Bernardo Kastrup, he has no fucking clue what I'm talking about, right? And he's been a part of the market. He has been a CEO of some hotshot company or something like that, right? Or high in the hall there in the upper echelons of this kind of company, right? But he demonizes capitalism, right? Fuck off. Please share, like, and subscribe. Let me have your comment. Consider donation. Also links below. And otherwise, have a nice day. See you in the next one.